This is Bob Harding. I'm bringing you another section of the Sunday afternoon lecture series from the Dartmouth Historical and Arts Society.
Introduction, an invitation for people to come into the website and look around. It's not any more than that. It shouldn't be filled with content. It should just be a simple invitation. We have, of course, the requirements, what we're about here. We have the board of directors, the bylaws, and we have, of course, the mission statement. And the mission statement itself talks about the history of Dartmouth and the people of Dartmouth. But very quickly, as I started building this and working with Bob and seeing all the information that we have, we began to realize that while Dartmouth is rich in history, it is only a small part of the bigger, richer New England history. And so as we started to build this website, we started to expand the geography of the history beyond the borders of Dartmouth. A lot of the people come from Dartmouth from other places, and they went to other places. So, so there's more in here than just about Dartmouth itself. Of course, we have the contact page, and of course, Susan is our gatekeeper for people that want to contact us for any reason. We have the participate page for people that want to volunteer or throw money at us. We'll be happy to take anybody's money. But the two areas where we have some content is really the events. And in the events page, usually as Bob gets the posters, I'll start putting the posters, I'll have the posters in. And I think Bob's getting some ready to put in now. But of course we have our calendar, and this calendar of course shows the events that are coming, up and coming, and need to be filled in. But the real heart of the website is the obvious resource page where all the resources reside. And as I mentioned, much of the history we have is beyond the borders of Dartmouth. And so we have a resource page with local area resource links. Now these are just links to other resources. And certainly one of the first and important one is really the Whaling Museum. So if we click on the Whaling Museum, we get, and they have many different pieces of resources, but these old Dartmouth historical sketches. This is the Historical Society reports that were published in 1903 to about 1968. And there's some 80 reports in here. And these are very extensive reports, so if you're looking to just read about some of the history of Dartmouth itself, there's a wealth of information just in this section alone. One of my favorites is number 10, because as I was doing my own research,
Excuse me, Dan.
yeah.
Could you move the table over this way? The post is blocking.
Oh,
out.
yeah, okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yay.
These are very extensive articles. I mean, they're page after page after page. So it's a lot of reading. But in this particular one, and again, it keeps going on here. This particular one, I think it was, excuse me for scrolling through this thing. Anyway, this particular one talks about in the 1800s, traveling through Dartmouth, going down the roads of Dartmouth and stopping at the farms. And at every farm they stop, they talk about the family that lives at the farm and who lived there and what they were all about. And then they proceeded to travel down the road, and it started on Tucker Road, and they were traveling south on Tucker Road and going to all the farms on Tucker Road. And at one point, this person left Tucker Road and headed west across an open pasture, across an old stone bridge, crossing a creek, and coming out on Chase Road near the intersection where the road goes to Old Westport. That is now the brand new DRT trail. And what was important to me at that time is I have an old photograph of my house where people said it was the Mott family homestead, and I knew it wasn't, but I needed to prove that. And this was a secondary piece of proof because this person said when they crossed that bridge and they came to Chase Road, on the corner of Chase Road and Old Westport Road was the Mott family homestead. And so it's like secondary information from the actual time that supports a lot of your knowledge about where things really are. So there's a tremendous amount of information in these sketches. Also, I put in a lot of links to all of the neighboring historical sites. We have Acushnet. There's a tremendous amount of wealth in all of these different societies. And everyone's here. Well, everyone that I have listed, I have 6. Actually, Whaling City, New Bedford, is a site. A lot of contemporary stuff here, but look at all the local history from the 1800s on the left-hand column.
It also has the directories.
What's that?
The old directories. If you scroll down just a little bit, it'll come to the other way.
Oh, the other way, yeah.
Scroll up rather. It says New Bedford City Directories.
Oh, yeah, and maps.
Yep. So the directories are, you can find a lot of people from 36 living in New Bedford at that time.
Directories are here.
Yep.
And you have the dates of the directories.
Look at the top one there, 1836.
Wow.
So, and that one there, you can look up and you can find
Look at
all
the
these
directories, yeah. So even I hadn't seen that piece of it, yeah. There's a tremendous amount of information at all of these links. And this is even before the stuff that we put in on our own website. So there's a wealth of information here. On the right-hand side, we have a description of the old schoolhouse. This is in the old website. But we have a studio, Studio D, and as you know, we have the Sunday night sessions where we have presentations. Well, most of those presentations are videotaped, and so this is a link to the cable TV station. And so if you've missed any of those presentations and you'd like to see them, they're right here. And you can actually watch the whole presentation over again.
It actually has the first one that was done with Monsher and Cole.
Then from the studio, of course, we go to the library. The library, of course, is where information is kept. Door must be locked.
Sunday library's closed.
In the library, we have several rooms. One is the reading room, and this is just general information, just various things to read that are relative to Dartmouth and a lot of New England history. And there's a couple articles on the town meeting records. These are articles about the town meeting records. These are not the records themselves. They are in the other part we'll get to. But a lot of the presentations that were done on Sunday, if you don't have time to look at the whole presentation in the studio, Bob Bardosa has written several articles. Bob Harding has a number of articles here. And so this is Remembering Perry's Grove with some of the photos. So this is very concise articles on some of the presentations we have. A couple of interesting life of William Bradford is told by Cotton Mather. Since William Bradford is such a key figure in all of New England history in this particular area, I thought this is a very interesting book. And many of these are full books, so they're big files to download when you click on them. Another one that was very interesting is the bookshelf of Alice Earle. And I found this very interesting because here's a woman who was born in 1851, but has done a wonderful job of writing and publishing all of these books, full books on colonial times. And one I started reading, for example, is the Stagecoach and Tavern Days. And these, again, are actually images of the books themselves.
Excuse me, Dan, is this woman a local, she was a local person?
I'm sorry?
This Alice Morse Earl, she was from the area?
Actually, I can't remember where she's from.
Okay,
I don't know.
okay, fine.
Yeah.
It's a local name, Earl. is-
Yeah, well,
West-
that's
Yeah,
one reason I asked.
Morses too.
And so these are, because it is a full book, it does take a little time for the images to download, but once you download it, you can download it to your own computer. It's a little slow here, but it has all the pictures. But I started reading a part of this, and what I found fascinating, she was talking about the stagecoaches in New England, and of course, I knew all about stagecoaches out west. I watched all the Western movies, you know, but I knew nothing about the stagecoaches in New England. And I found it kind of interesting that when companies wanted to have a stagecoach line through all the towns through Massachusetts, one of the legal requirements is that they have way stations in every town. And of course, they didn't build way stations. They used homes, taverns that people had already established. They made relationships. They had relationships with these people. And she was telling a story about one of the common problems in those days was that when the stagecoach would stop and people would get out to have a meal, they had this amount of socialization to talk to each other, meet the people in the tavern or the house. They usually had a minister there who would say a prayer and maybe do a little sermon. And so they would spend some time there before they went on their way. But the stagecoach driver had a whole different agenda. He was on a schedule. So he would run in the back door, gobble his food, run back out, go into the front door and say, okay, we're leaving. And most people had to then get on the stagecoach and didn't finish their meals. Sometimes they didn't even get their food. And so it was pretty well accepted that people believed that there was a conspiracy between the stagecoach companies and these taverns, so they didn't have to feed them very much. So these are some of the real problems that people had in those days. And it's this level of detail you get when you read some of the stuff that's really goes further back in time, and she has done a wonderful job on a lot of this. Oops.
Hey, Tom, get in there.
Oh, went too far. All right, let me try it again. We also have a map room. In the map room, we've collected as many maps as we could find initially, and we're starting to get more maps. Don just sent me one this week. But these are maps. For example, we have, Don sent me the Bristol County 1852 map. We have the Dartmouth 1856 map. Now, I put these maps in they take time to download because I put them in high resolution, so they're large files. And the reason I did that is so you can zoom in on these maps and scroll through the maps. It's a little slow right here, so I'm not going to be able, I probably can't demonstrate it. But the old maps, in order to be useful, you have to be able to read them. And if you're doing research on property or even your family, as you can see, you can zoom in really clearly and scroll through the map.
That's called its own.
Here's Smith Mills.
That's easier than I can read the map hanging on my wall at the house.
Chase is on the.
Here's our house right here, from 1852. It's Patrick Potter's house.
That's where he
It's
lives.
still there.
Is he King?
N.M.
That's
Chase.
where Dan lives.
Huh?
That's your house, isn't it?
Yeah, Patrick Potter's.
Left
Oh, I
of
see it, I see it,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That's the Potter houses where.
yeah. And
Miss Allen has a house.
here's Crossroad right here.
That's my ancestors right there, Phil
N.M.
Chase and
Chase.
him.
Huh?
N.M. Chase.
Oh,
Right on Crossroad.
Noble Chase.
Noble Mountain Chase.
My ancestor.
Right on Crossroad.
oh, okay, yep. Yep,
And that's right where,
right there, yeah.
right where the pharmacy is right now.
GL.
Yeah, exactly, yeah,
That's the Cummings house.
yeah.
Yeah, Giolmi, that's the Cummings house, right?
It's a great map.
So we have a whole list of maps. Bristol County map is a map just like the one I showed you, only it's all of Bristol County. So it's many times bigger than this map. I'm not even going to click on it now, but you can see all the detail of all of the towns in the entire county at that level from 1852. So this is it's a great spot to get the old maps. We have a section called collections. There's not a lot in here yet, but we'll keep adding to it. While there's a lot of photographs throughout the website, there is a section here where we put in the photographs, the ones we find. Remembering Gidley School, Bob has had this information. These are all the Gidley School classes that we have, Bob has pictures of. And we put them in here, different classes, all the photographs. And if you click on any of these photographs, they enlarge so you can actually see the pictures.
And you guys are looking for more stuff like that
Yeah.
to put on there?
Yes.
Yeah?
Everything that has to do with the families, with Dartmouth and history, if you have any of that, please send it along and we'll be glad to post it. There's a place for it. So, especially old, here's actual,
Those are my high school classmates right there. That's Leon Guthier, anybody know him?
so you can,
I know Marshall.
and so they go back to the class of 49, 44, 1927. So if you have any old school photographs, we'd be glad to put them in. All the event posters that we see are listed here for all of the years. And so we have them from 2016 and going back to 2015 and
Remember, we rescheduled that one 4 times. The snow happened.
and you click on any one of them, you get the full poster. You get just a little sample of it here. And the slide presentations, again, during all of the Sunday presentations, you can either go to the studio and watch the whole presentation, you can go to the reading room and read an article about the presentation, or you can come here and see the actual slides of the presentation. Recently, Albert Lees did his grave lessons here, so all of his slides are here. Come on, Albert. I know you're here.
I don't even think it's doing it. I don't see it loading, yeah.
Okay. Remembering.
Oh, it is loading. Oh,
Perry's
there you
Grove,
go.
yeah, it's going, it's a little slow. You know, look at the top line, the little blue line traveling across there.
Fast now. It hurt us. We're all looking at it, it's getting nervous.
Runs like crazy and stops.
Again, these files are all big, that's why it takes time. But you have the option of looking at them on the website or actually downloading them to your computer and storing them on your own computer. If there's something that you like that's personal and you want to keep it, you can do that. So these are all the slides for that particular presentation. I won't go through everything here, but and then we go back to the library again and let's go to the genealogy room. Now, this is an area that Bob has done a tremendous amount of work to. If you haven't done any genealogy yet, this is 2 areas in here. One is I'm starting to put in some of the resources for genealogists, and this is just very basic. If you've done genealogy and you have resources, sites that you go to, and have some information, if you'll send those to me, I'd be happy to post them here. This is just a starting place for people to find, to start genealogy. Some of this is some of the things that I've used. This is the National Archives, and there are tools for genealogists. There's just a whole variety of information here for genealogy. family search, of course, this is a big one. This is an index that gives you vital records, immigration records, military records. A lot of it has dollar signs here because you need to subscribe to Ancestry. These are Ancestry lists, but some of them are just from the Mormon Church, and they're free. There are maps, military records, so there's a lot of information here just to get you started. Finding a grave, if you're looking for graves anywhere in Dartmouth or any town. Actually, this goes across the country. We have mass vital records from 1600 to 1850. And then in the genealogy section, getting into the specifics right now, and I got all of this from Bob, and Bob has a lot more to put in, but these are, if you've done genealogy, you know it's very difficult to put together a chain of people connected to other people. You know, you have a person, their parents, then their parents' parents, and after about 3 generations, you're off paper. And how do you start putting multiple pieces of paper? The organization is very difficult. Bob has family circles, and I thought this thing was fantastic. And he did this piece on Job Gidley. And so if you look at this one, if you look at Job Gidley, this is in the fan type layout. So you have Job Gidley in the center. And then you have his father and his mother next to him. And then each of their parents' parents. And then going out 1, 2, 3, 4 generations, and all of that information is on a single piece of paper. And you can download these and print them out so that you can see, you don't have to stand on your head to see the bottom of it. You can actually print these things out. But now if you look at, you want to go back further, if you look at all the people on this outside ring, that's all these people in the right-hand column. And so if you click on any of them, you get their circle chart. And it keeps going back further in time until as far as you can go. And in this case, you're in the 1609 from Mary Howland. So in just a couple or a few pieces of paper, you can go back generations and very easily see the layout of the family. I think it's a fantastic portrayal of genealogy. Tuckers of Old Dartmouth. Some of this is information that other people have put in. They have done a lot of research. I found that Tuckers of Dartmouth, it is a book. It is very interesting.
Kathleen Fair wrote this one.
Huh?
A woman named Kathleen Fair, who used to be the Historical Commission, wrote this.
Yeah. And this is taking a little time to download, but one of the things I read in here, which is I thought was kind of interesting, I think it was Henry Tucker, I'm not sure which Tucker, but he got a vote started in Dartmouth to have Dartmouth secede from the state of Massachusetts and become a part of Rhode Island. And the reason he did that is because much of Dartmouth, of course, was the Quakers. And one of the requirements in Massachusetts is that the church and state was not separated. So all the towns had to donate money and support the Church of England. And Dartmouth didn't want to do that. And Rhode Island is much more liberal, and so he wanted to be a part of Rhode Island. But the vote didn't pass. Fairhaven people knocked it down. So we're still a part of Massachusetts. But this is an extensive document written by her.
Over 100 pages.
Yeah. So if you have any genealogy yourself that you'd like here, certainly we can put it on. And then we go to the research archives. Let me go to the land record search here first. Again, this is, I put this in, and this is just some of the things that I found while doing my research. And what I tried to explain here just a little bit is explaining kind of what's involved in looking for land research just in general. But a few tips here. One of the most comprehensive online sets of land records I've connected to. All the land records of Massachusetts is online. And this is through the Family Search archives. And there are almost 6 million images that you can connect to on all the land in Massachusetts. So if you click on like Bristol County, which I spent, untold hours in this website alone. But they have deed indexes, grantees, and grantors of different years. It's a little more difficult to go through this than it is if you go to the registry, because the registry has one set of indexes. This is a set of indexes on top of the indexes. So there may be multiple books here.
There are different districts
Yeah.
in Bristol County, and each district has its own index books, and they're all here for Bristol County.
They're all here.
They
Yeah.
don't tell you which district, you have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah. So you have, for example, you have 1795 to 1866, volume 8 and 9. But then you have 1840 to 1866, different volumes, but they cover part of the same years. So somebody you're looking for might be in more than one document. But you can go to any of these indexes. They're all by family name. You kind of have to hunt because they're not easily indexed. It's kind of, you have to guess at. So if I go to page 134, for example, then you can zoom in and find out it's Burgess. So depending on who you're looking for, you might have to skip ahead some pages to find the name of the person you're looking for. But this index then shows you the dates and all the names of the Burgesses that bought land, where they bought it, and they go to the book. Oh yeah, I zoomed in. The book and page number, and so you can go to the book. Then once you find the book and page, let me do this again. Once you get the book and page and you know the date, these are all indexes, but if you scroll all the way down, you get to the books themselves, the deed books. So you know the book and page or the volume, and you know the date. So then you can go to that particular book and volume, and I'm just kind of randomly going through here. And you can then go to the image and you can scroll in and you get the page number of the book here. And these are the actual photocopies of the deeds. And you can zoom in and possibly read it, depending how early it is. But the nice thing about this is you can zoom in a lot more than the actual book and actually read them.
So that-
In
that
some
has
cases, a little easier.
Everything from New Bedford Registry of
Yes.
Deeds?
Everything, yes.
And the ones before that, which I believe are in Taunton?
Yes,
Yeah, I think they only go up to about 1900 in
Yeah.
Bedford.
yeah.
Well,
But
Now-
they can go down.
Yeah, now, what you can do, and I've gone to Taunton, and I've also gone to New Bedford. New Bedford has copies of the Taunton books. Not all of them, but Dartmouth, Old Dartmouth. So you can, you have to go upstairs to the room. When I go in there, the woman doesn't, she says hello and hands me the key.
I've been to that room,
Because it's
but I thought
upstairs in a
there was
locked
something
room.
predated
Yeah.
that.
They have 5,000 books in,
You have to be a weightlifter to carry those books, though.
yeah, they have 5,000 books in New Bedford, and I've gone back to book number 1 up in the lock room upstairs. So all of the land records you can search from your computer.
Dan, just 1 second. When you get them online like this, you can have them download that page. So you can just get the page in your own computer.
Yes,
So if you're doing your own research, you find the book and page, you go to the book and page, get the thing, you can cut the piece of it you want, because sometimes it's 2 or 3 deeds on one book, one page.
yeah,
So you just get the one you want, put it in your computer and save it in a file for your family.
yeah,
And
exactly.
all free.
All free
Yeah,
from family
It
Sounds
service.
is.
good, doesn't it? Free.
Well, you know, when you go there, you're gonna pay 25 cents for a
That's
copy. Or
yeah.
And a lousy
Well, I've
copy.
gone to the registry and I've paid my 50 cents for the copy, and then I come home and scan it in on the computer. So I have digital copies of all my stuff, but if I take it off of here, I get it free. Download it.
Free.
And I don't have to scan it in.
And you don't have to pay for parking either.
Yeah,
Time to stand.
You don't have to get a hernia lifting up the book either.
and the last section, but not the least, but actually to say this is the last section and the most, is the research archives. The research archives, this is all source material. There are no books about the material. This is images of all the real material. So if you're doing research, you want documented research, this is where the records are. This is the old Dartmouth town records. Dartmouth town meeting records from 1674 to 1787. These are the index books. The files are so large that I've broken them in each index into 2 parts because they take too long to download. We'll see if how soon it comes up. But if you're looking for any documented town records, this is taking a long time here.
Well, so may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do the index have things like, all right, Bob did his study on the town pounds. Can you find index
You'll find stuff
town
on
pounds
that.
and it'll bring you to the
Yes.
pages where there are things?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Spend some
And
time
and
looking.
you gotta go to the index first, and that tells you what page.
Well, yes, but I mean, so you could index and
It's a
find town
two-step-
pounds in the index.
Two-step process, right.
Yeah, this is a 2-step
You
process.
got the index broken into 2 pieces, because it's a big index.
Yeah,
It's-
Yes,
So-
I remember, yeah.
this is only 1/4 the index, and you see how long it's taken. But I'll just show you, I'm not gonna go through the other records because it's gonna take too long. But just to give you a sample here, this is dated 1674 to 1787, and you begin here. And so these are the actual images of the records. And I'll scroll down a little bit. And
So it looks like, are these all
See, this is one on
microfilms?
blackbirds. See this one?
you can zoom in on this.
That's blackbirds. You're talking about blackbirds on page 21 and 36, the log about killing blackbirds.
Yep.
If you could get 2 cents apiece if you kill a blackbird. And there's a committee appointed relating to the blackbirds, and they record on page 21. And then there's a warrant, town meeting warrant, relative to killing blackbirds on page 176.
So you go to the index, you find the person that you're looking for, you write down all the page numbers. Now keep in mind, there could be several people, and the range of dates is pretty big. So when you have page 21 and page 176, that could be a 100-year gap. It might not be the same person. So if you find a person's name, you write down all the pages. Now you go to this section here, you see that you find a page number. Now the Blackburn was
176.
76, so you go to page 76 of 157 is here. The date range for that page is 1729 to 1739. And so you hit part 1 or part 2, because I broke these into 2 pieces because they were too big. And you go to that page and you'll find whatever is written there about that person. In some cases...
Well, that's subject. Sometimes there's subjects.
Yeah, and it's different subjects. Sometimes it lists the person as being named Constable of Dartmouth, or Warrant of Dartmouth, or anything that was described legally and documented legally in the town records will be here. And so you can find, you go to the index, you find the people, whoever you're looking for, find the pages, look for the pages here, and click on the books and look through the pages. I'm not going to click because it would take too long. Another section, Old Dartmouth Highways, 1705 to 1786. This is a book. And it's the actual record of them laying out the roads in Dartmouth.
And when they did that.
Yeah,
It's
how they
dated.
did it. Now, it's very difficult. You just were telling me about reading it. It's very difficult to kind of figure out where the road is because there were no road signs. And it's all referenced to other people's houses. But you certainly lived around here long enough. You know the people and where they lived. You can figure out.
They didn't do the meets and bounds like they did for a plot of land. They just said, oh, you go to so-and-so's house, which might be 2 miles down the road, or it might be a half mile down the road. So it's, you know, it's not very...
Yeah.
But it's fascinating reading because, you know, he's kind of learned the logic of why people did this and why they did the roads the way they did. Another record of Dartmouth, Old Dartmouth, marriage and deaths. In the bigger picture, Plymouth Colony records. These are 12 volumes. I mean, you're looking at 12 encyclopedias here of information. I'm not even going to think about clicking on these.
One thing to keep in mind, in Plymouth Colony, Dartmouth was a town. And so you can look in there for anything that mentions Dartmouth. You can search it because it's a PDF file. So search for Dartmouth and you get the places where Dartmouth's mentioned, which is very useful.
Yeah. You have division of land. Indian records for their lands. I found that fascinating because you get to read how much the Indians were paid for the land in Dartmouth. The actual records. We also have town of Portsmouth. We have a big collection of Massachusetts Bay Colony Court of Assistance. And again, these are legal records for all of Massachusetts Bay. Colonial laws of Massachusetts from 1672. So there's a wealth of colonial information here in these books alone. and a lot more coming.
Did a lot
The
more
reason
on
we have
since the last time I
Portsmouth-
looked. So you put a lot more on since the last time I looked.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The reason we have Portsmouth is very much of Dartmouth was settled by people from Portsmouth.
Right.
A lot of Westporters, original Westporters, and original Dartmouth people came from from Portsmouth over here, because Portsmouth was settled before we were. So a lot of families you go back to Portsmouth for their roots,
Yeah.
and that's why that's handy.
I have to tell just one more story, and I'm done because this is really the end of it. But in that book, I was reading about the stagecoaches in the taverns. The story, it reminded me when I went up here to eat, and I looked at that tray of silverware. Real, honest to goodness silverware until I picked it up and realized. That reminded me of the story of the stagecoach. This woman in the book, Earl, told the story of the people who were in the tavern eating their meal, and as I mentioned, stagecoach driver comes in and says, it's time to leave, and people weren't done with their meals, everybody was grumbling, everybody got up, they went into the stagecoach, and one guy was sitting there and he didn't move. He finished eating his food. Stagecoach loaded everybody and took off. Guy's eating his food, not in a hurry. After he was done, he asked for dessert, had his dessert. And when he was all done, he said to the owner, he says, oh, by the way, some passenger on that stagecoach stole all the silverware. And the owner looked, and all the silverware was gone. And he was astounded. So he ran to his guy in the back and he says, go after that stagecoach and get it back.